What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So let's start this video with Stephane and his latest physique update, just a few days out from his men's open bodybuilding debut, which is gonna be happening at this upcoming France Pro. A debut that all of the bodybuilding world has been waiting for quite some time now. Now, literally the worst possible time for him and his very long time coach, Patrick Tuor, to part ways. So Patrick also left this comment on who is the best bodybuilder IG page, and this could literally mean anything, whether Stephane cheated on his diet or he did not follow the protocols set by his coach. But nevertheless, that is a very big disaster because both these guys were working together for years now, and most importantly, they planned this offseason together, and Stephane was actually looking mind-blowing in all of his updates. Not just in the off-season, but leading into the show too. And he was actually able to make some very impressive gains in the last 1 year or so, since he made his transition from Classic into the Men's Open. As the last show that he did, when he was in Classic, that was Portugal Pro. Now for a guy like Stephane, who is gonna get compared to some of the veterans of the open bodybuilding this coming weekend in France, he has to be spot on in terms of conditioning. And with Patrick Tuor, the chances of that happening were really high. Still, I am very much looking forward to Stephane's open debut, as we have waited for this not just for this whole year, but ever since he came onto the scene, and all of us kept on telling him that he belongs with the big boys in the Men's Open instead of Classic physique. Now, if we go back and look at the competitive history of Stephane, he had a very hard time peaking perfectly for his initial Classic physique shows until he joined hands with Patrick Tuor, who brought him in the best condition of his life last year at Portugal Pro. So it's kind of uncertain whether Stephane will go through the peak week all by himself or will he hire a new coach. So there is a one guy who has truly gone shadow mode during this entire Olympia prep, and that is the top 4 from last year's Olympia in the men's open bodybuilding, Martin Fitzwater. So there is a very solid reason on why he isn't being mentioned as much as he should be leading into the Olympia this year, is because nobody knows how he looks at the moment. As I just said, he has gone totally shadow mode. Now his coach Stephane thinks that Martin is gonna be in this year's Olympia top 3, and you have got to 100% agree with this statement from Martin that nobody, that includes the reigning Olympia champion Samson Dauda, nobody in this year's Olympia lineup is 100% unbeatable. They are all beatable because all of these guys, they have beaten one another on their given days. And that is why the Olympia this year is being regarded as a very open Olympia. And there is no dominant champion, as Phil Heath was, as Ronnie Coleman was. So anything can happen on the day of the show come Olympia this year. Now, the one thing that Martin is doing differently for this year's Olympia prep is not to chase a certain stage weight, which is absolutely the right call. No matter what he does, he simply won't be able to outmuscle guys like Samson Dauda or the Mutant. So better stick to his strengths, come in shredded, ripped to the bone, the way he did for the Olympia last year, unlike what we saw at the Pittsburgh Pro. Now people tend to forget how crazy impressive a certain bodybuilder or an athlete was, which in this case is Martin, looked at the Olympia last year, because going by his last show, which was the Pittsburgh Pro, which obviously was a disappointing showing by him, and that is one of the major reasons why so many people out there, they are kind of sleeping on him. But all that being said, he has been extremely focused during all this time, and I do not think we are gonna get any more than this in terms of his physique update before the Olympia this year. So, let me ask you guys one thing. Can he shock everyone one more time the way he did at the Olympia last year? Before you scroll or blink too hard, have you subscribed yet? Please don't make me bring out the emotional blackmail. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon. It's free, it's painless, and that makes me look way cooler than I actually am. Next up, we have an update from Chris Bumstead, the king of Classic, the most influential IFBB pro of this era, of this past decade or so, who set such high standards for classic physique division, and he chose to walk away from the sport in the prime of his career with his health intact. So we are now 2.5 weeks out from the Olympia this year, and Cbum's physique, which have looked superhuman in the past, and it still would have had he still been competing. So he did not train his upper body for many months after that shoulder surgery because he was recovering and in that detox phase. But that being said, his current physique, that still looks pretty damn impressive taking all those factors into account. So the way he finished his career last year in Prague, pushing the top 4 in the world in the men's open, Martin Fitzwater, that raises a very serious question. What if there was no classic physique division and Chris Bumstead competed in the men's open for all those years, for all that time? I mean, the guy almost beat the top 4 best bodybuilder in the world last year just by doing a rebound post Olympia last year, not an off season, just growing into the show and not coming down to make the weight cut off. So all he did was eat up to the show, no long off season where he tried to eat like an open bodybuilder and building up more muscle and more thickness. So if that was the case, Chris Bumstead could have been a top competitor even in the men's open for many years. But his legacy as the greatest classic physique competitor that will live forever, and he will go down as one of the most dominant Olympia champions. Now there are absolutely zero chances of him returning to any bodybuilding stage. But that being said, the man is walking around carrying a very impressive physique. So the accusations of someone like Tony Burton using SEO in his delts, they are totally useless and also baseless. I mean, look at those delts right now, showing such crazy striations. Now this guy has some of the most round and 3D looking delts, mostly because of his genetics. And those are probably the main reason why he's able to create such an unbelievable X-frame and that crazy V-taper on the stage. Now Tonio was asked point blank whether he can beat Martin Fitzwater, the top 4 from the Olympia last year, or Andrew Jagged, the top 5 from the Olympia last year. Because if he has to play somewhere in that top 6, those are the 2 guys he will have to beat in order to place that high. And this right here is the response. So in Tonio's mind, the only guy in this year's Olympia lineup who are out of his reach, they are Derek, Hadi, Samson and the Mutant, the potential top 4. Now, Tonio Burton would have beaten Martin had he showed up at this year's Pittsburgh Pro the way he did, with the physique that he brought at this year's Dubai Pro. But what if Martin is peaked 100% the same way he did for the Olympia last year, for this year's Olympia too? Well, in my opinion, then beating a guy like Martin for someone like Tonio, that is gonna be tough. Now Tonio's conditioning, that is also looking amazing right now. And he has been one of the most consistent guys, one of the most consistent bodybuilders in the entire men's open. When it comes to peaking 100%, when it comes to bringing top-notch conditioning. Now truthfully, there hasn't been any show where Tonio Burton came in off. He just did not have enough size, enough mass to battle it out with the top guys in the men's open. So he compared quite well with guys like Behrouz Tabani and William Bonac at this year's Dubai Pro. And this will be an improved version of him compared to either Legion Sports or Dubai Pro this year. So Tonio Burton has all the tools to expose the lack of conditioning in some of those guys. But beating a guy like Andrew Jagged, especially when he's on, that is no way possible, because Andrew is just way bigger, way more aesthetic and way more complete and has to offer a lot more than Tonio Burton. So Tonio Burton is also gonna be an exciting pro in this year's Olympia lineup, as the last time he did the Olympia, that was back in 2023, and he was top 8 at the Olympia that year. But the lineup this time, that is a lot more difficult. But at the same time, this isn't the same Tonio. He's also massively improved compared to his physique back in 2023. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.